everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about running motivation because it's been something that I think a lot of people have been talking about recently with the opening up of more and more things and the fact that we can obviously leave the house for more than just once a day and for more than 1 hour. I think over lockdown a lot of people were getting into running and able to use their time wisely, because when you're only able to get out once a day and you think you've only got maybe 1 hour, an hour and a half to spend outside, you're going to spend that time really wisely. And now with the reintroduction of a little bit more freedom, I think people are struggling for motivation, and that combined with the fact that so many of our races have been cancelled or postponed, perhaps indefinitely, then motivation can kind of feel a little bit hard to come by, and I know that I've been struggling with that much more recently. Obviously at the beginning of lockdown I completed a 21k half marathon time trial and a 10k time trial, and the training for those was my motivation to keep running. From that point onwards it became just about enjoyment, just about getting out on the trails and having a bit of fun down here. But having explored so many of the trails around here and with no end goal for my training in sight, motivation is a little bit more difficult at the moment. So I just thought I'd go through some of my main motivations in case they help you guys, and of course if you have any that you'd like to add, please do put them in the comments below, because I mean I could always do with a little bit of extra motivation from you guys, and I'm sure it will be really helpful for other people as well. And then after that I'm going to head out for a run and take you guys along with me so that you guys can keep me motivated as well along the way. My first piece of motivation for getting out running is reducing all pressure on myself, and I think especially for new runners, pressure can be one of the main things that actually ends up putting you off running. It's not surprising, you know, when we first start running you end up kind of improving so quickly. So at the beginning, you know, you're maybe not able to run to the end of the road, or you're not able to run 1 kilometer, but you do a couch to 5k or something similar to that. You can improve so quickly over that time, and then you get towards that kind of 5k mark, and improving from there on is actually so much harder, and it's obviously going to take a lot longer. We put so much pressure on ourselves to continue improving and improving every time we go out running. When that stops happening, it can become quite daunting to send yourself out, and you feel like you really need to push yourself on every single run. By reducing pressure, I feel more motivated to go outside, because I know that I don't have to do a particular distance and I don't have to do a particular time. I don't have to do anything in particular, and that's one of the joys of not having races actually, is that you can just do whatever. You don't have to stick to some sort of training program, and that means that I know that if I get to the end of the road and I really don't want to go for a run still, I can just turn around and I can come right back home. And I have done that once in my life, and that is it. I always say, you know what, I'll just make it to the end of the road, and if I feel like turning around, that's absolutely fine. And like I say, over the 3 or so years that I've been running kind of consistently, I've done that once. So reducing pressure is like the main way of getting me out the door. The second one is planning. It's not really motivation per se, but the more I think about running, the more I think about and build up leaving the house, the less quickly and the less likely it is to happen. For some reason, when I plan my runs, I know that I'm going to go out at a particular time, especially if I'm going to go and meet someone, then I don't put it off as much as if I just have kind of a full day to go for a run if I want. One of my favourite things to do in London, especially if I know that I'm going to be really busy, is I will plan to go for a run first thing in the morning, and I'll put out my shoes and I'll put out my leggings or my shorts, put out my full outfit, plan everything for that morning, so that when I go to bed I know that I don't even have to think when I get up the next day. I just am up and out the door. And that was one of my favourite things during marathon training, is that I knew exactly what I had to do and when I was going to do it, and I could just get up and out. Although I was actually running much longer distances then, I didn't put them off and I didn't build them up so much in my head, because it was just something that I was gonna do. Whereas now that I have a little bit more freedom and no goal, I can sometimes think, well, it doesn't really matter if I'm not gonna go out. And while that's absolutely true, I know that once I am out I feel so much better. So I do want to get out, but for some reason in my head I build up and I get kind of nervous and I think, oh, maybe I'm not going to enjoy it for the first time ever, and maybe I don't want to go out. But if I just plan it in advance, then chances are I will just get up and get out and that'll be done. The next thing is to remember how you feel after the run. This is something that I've heard for so many things, like not just for running but for working out in general. If you remember the feeling of finishing a run, then you're much more likely to inspire yourself to go out, because rather than feeling nervous and stressed and unmotivated to head out, you actually just kind of envisage the feeling of getting back, and you can be out for just 20 minutes and have that amazing post-run high. That's so worth doing that run for. And just by taking a picture at the end of your previous run and then looking back at that selfie, it just kind of takes you back to that moment, and that can be really motivating to head on out. The next one, my fourth tip, is to look back over moments that you were really proud of yourself on a run. And this is kind of similar to the last one in that it kind of triggers a memory, but one of the things I've been doing recently is looking back over race photos and run photos where I did something that I didn't know that I could do. And that's one of the most inspiring things. And I think it's kind of a bit of a cliche where it's like, be your own motivation, be your own inspiration, like whatever. But it is kind of true, you know, we can forget what we've been able to do in the past and think that we can't get back to that point again. And that's obviously, if you've done it in the past, you can do it again. Looking back at my race photos and things that I really, really loved and thoroughly enjoyed at the time motivates me to get out there and do something a little bit similar, even if it's not, you know, running a half marathon or running some amazing trail race somewhere. Even if it's just getting out for like 5 or 6K, that little extra bit of motivation from looking back at races that I absolutely loved is enough to get me outside. The next motivation for when all other motivation fails is to stick on some really good music. Now, I don't usually listen to music on runs. I quite often will listen to podcasts unless I'm doing sprints or faster runs, and then I'll listen to music to keep me G'd up. But listening to really good music that you associate with exercise and associate with running can kind of put you in the right mindset for getting out there, and it can mean that you're not thinking about it so much, but you just stick on the music, tie up your shoes, and you get on out. I listen to Muse for this generally because it's what I used to listen to back at universities before track races, and just listening to it now will be like, okay, now it's time to work. And for some reason that just means that I stop making excuses for myself when I just get outside. But for you it might be, I don't know, whatever else, or it might just be a good podcast that actually you're like, oh, I really want to listen to the rest of this podcast. A great way of doing that would be to go for a run and just have some me time. But whatever it is, sticking on something that means that you want to get out the house and spend some time listening to that is a really good way to kind of encourage yourself out and stop overthinking it. And my final piece of running motivation would be to speak to other runners. Find yourself a running community that is going to encourage you to get out there. I have my tribe Run for Love friends that I met out in the Azores who did that whole race. Basically, they all inspire me. Just by looking at their Instagram accounts, they inspire me. But if I'm really struggling for motivation, I might message someone and say, I need to go for a run today. Give me a reason to get out there, and I will just get this long bombardment of messages being like, just do it. Knowing that they'll have my back and knowing that they're all doing the same things as well day to day makes me feel like I'm part of a community, and we all know how motivating that can be and how positive and inspiring that can be day to day as well. So if you don't have a running community, I would really recommend either finding one online, you know, finding lots of like-minded runners or athletes or gym goers on social media, or joining a running club, or finding yourself a coach who can act as someone to hold you accountable, or even just simple things like following people on Strava and having a scroll through. Obviously, it's not useful to compare yourself to other people, but having people to hold you accountable and to encourage you on your next run means that you're more likely to get out there. Okay, so I know it needs to be said that I don't believe that you have to do every run. I think there are times when it's better to take a rest, and rest days are so important. But one of the best skills that I've learned is learning the difference between lazy days and days that I actually need a rest, and those two generally they feel a little bit similar at times, so I know that I'll be tired, I know that I'll find excuses, and I'll constantly be thinking up excuses in my head. But there is a difference between the two, and I can generally find out which one I'm feeling at that time and then make my assessment of whether or not I should go for a run based on that. So I'm not advocating overtraining. I think it's really important that we do take rest days and that we do take time off, and also be aware of the fact that when you first start a running program, it's really intense for the body, and you do need rest, and you don't need to be running every single day. So don't compare the stage that you're at now with someone else who's an ultra runner and who runs like 10k plus a day. Those things are not comparable. So just compare yourself to yourself and look at where you are this week compared to where you were a month ago. That's the best comparison you can make over everything else. So I hope that motivates you a little bit. I am going to get changed into my sportswear now. It's another thing to do to motivate myself, is just get changed into what I'm going to wear for the run so that I have no excuse not to go, and then I'm gonna head out because I'm feeling motivated. Way sunnier than we thought it was gonna be today. It's hot, but nice day to be out for sure. Gonna get the tan on. Another great excuse to get outside. The other way, I mean, Christ, this way the other day. I can't think when I'm running. Anyway, it's beautiful. We get on this way. Beautiful. It's a little bit mix of road and off-road. This is what you come out onto. Not half bad. Both wearing road shoes, as per usual. Got the wrong shoes on, but feels like the south of France or something. Very hot. Runs don't get that much nicer than this. Absolutely beautiful path. We've never run this before at all, and I love it already. Because it's so hot, we're taking it really easy. It's way hotter than it said it was going to be. This morning it was like 15 degrees and cloudy. So like, oh, perfect day for a run. You know, go long when it's not so hot, but when it's like this, prudent to take it easy. Have a little bit of water every so often. But definitely can't complain about the views. It's kind of tick central, but not half bad. So nice here.
So warm.
Yeah. Nice not having the bag anymore.
You're welcome.
So we're out at the furthest point of our run. Rhian's just gone for a wee, so I'm stopped. And we don't know where we are, but we're just going to take the road route back because that was a lot more off-roady than I expected, and I just sort of felt a bit pathetic. Nice plod back. It might be slightly longer, but it's roady, so that little bit easier. And if you haven't watched my introduction to trail running vlog, I did that last week, so if you want to give trails a go and watch that first. But for now, we're sticking to roads. We are just over 11k in, and I finally know where we are. Rhian's sort of been leading the way because he just knows everywhere. He spent a long time around here. So we kind of come out on a path and he's like, oh, I know where this one is. So that's a bit of relief. Otherwise we definitely get lost more often. We are near the gym, which is about a 2k run from home. It is, after this downhill bit, mostly uphill, but we have been going downhill for a very long time, which has been very nice. I am ridiculously tired today, but it's really nice to be out regardless. And I have a nice crabbies waiting for me when I get back home. all done, just over 13 kilometers, and we're walking the last little bit back home to stretch the legs. Rhian feels very good, don't you, Fee?
Yeah, surprisingly. Do it again.
I don't feel as good as Rhian feels, but I'm very happy that we went out, and as per usual feel kind of relaxed and pleased with myself after that. So that's that post-run feeling, and that's what you need to remind yourself of next time you can't be bothered to go out. That kind of post-run feeling as opposed to the pre-run feeling, which is terror and reluctance, essentially. I'm going to go and sit in the garden in the sun. I'm going to sign off now. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Do share it if you found it interesting or think someone else might. I think that is it. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time. Bye!